Rain pressed against the tall glass windows of the Sterling penthouse like restless fingers, turning the city lights into blurred watercolors. Inside, everything was spotless marble floors, silent art, expensive air that smelled faintly of lemon polish. And yet, two small screams cut through it all, not playful screams. Not the kind you ignore. They were the raw, cracked sounds of children who had learned too early that comfort can disappear overnight. Across the room, 8-year-old Ava Sterling clung to her twin sister, Mia, both of them trembling as another nanny backed away with shaking hands, whispering, "I can't. I'm sorry. I really can't." And in the doorway, holding a mop like it was the only thing keeping him standing, a janitor named Ethan Carter looked at the girls as if he recognized that kind of fear. "Before we go any further, where are you watching from tonight? It still amazes me that one story can cross oceans and land in someone's quiet room at the exact moment they need it. Drop your city or country in the comments. Let's see how far a little kindness can travel. Ethan hadn't planned on being there. He was supposed to be on the service floor, cleaning after an expensive charity dinner that had ended with crystal glasses and forced smiles. The kind of party where rich people said the word blessed like it was a badge. But a spilled tray in the elevator had delayed him. And now he stood on the wrong floor, the penthouse floor, because the freight elevator doors had opened like a mistake. The first thing he saw was the father, Michael Sterling, billionaire, Tech King newspaper headline, standing at the far end of the living room with his jaw clenched so hard it looked painful. He wasn't yelling. That was the worst part. His anger wasn't loud. It was controlled, cold, exhausted. "You're the 5th this month," he said to the nanny, voice tight. "Do you understand what that does to them?" The nanny wiped her eyes. "I tried. I really did. But they throw things, they scream, they hide knives in cushions." Ava's eyes flared. "We didn't hide knives." Mia's voice was smaller. "We hid forks." Michael's shoulders dropped. The anger slipped into something like defeat. "Just go." The nanny hurried out, nearly colliding with Ethan. She didn't even look at him, just rushed past as if the building itself was on fire. Michael's gaze snapped to Ethan. "Who are you?" Ethan held up his ID badge with a slow, careful motion. He'd learned that fast movements scared people, especially kids. "Maintenance," he said softly. "I'm sorry, sir." "The elevator, not now," Michael cut in. Then, as if catching himself, he dragged a hand down his face. "Just clean the hallway. Don't come in." Ethan nodded. He should have left. He knew that. This was not his world. Not his floor. Not his problem. But then Mia made a sound, barely a sound, like a small animal caught in a trap. She was looking at the empty space where the nanny had stood, her lower lip shaking. Trying so hard not to cry and failing anyway, Ava wrapped her arms around her sister with fierce determination, like she could hold the whole world back. "Stop leaving," Ava whispered, not to anyone in particular. "Stop leaving us." That sentence hit Ethan like a fist, because in another life, his real life, he'd heard almost the same words in a different apartment. A cheaper one, with peeling paint and a leaking ceiling. His son, Noah, had said it the day Ethan's wife packed a suitcase and walked out. Noah had been 6 then, clutching Ethan's work shirt, asking, "Is she coming back?" "Dad, don't leave too." Ethan swallowed, his throat suddenly tight. He turned his face slightly, pretending to focus on the mop handle so no one would see what was happening behind his eyes. Michael spoke again, quieter now. "They're impossible," he muttered. "No one can handle them." Ava's head jerked up. "We're not impossible." Mia's voice wobbled. "We're just tired." Michael looked away as if he couldn't stand to see that. "You're tired," he snapped, but it was hollow. "Do you think I'm not?" The room fell silent except for the rain dot. Ethan took a breath. He wasn't supposed to speak. People like Michael Sterling didn't pay janitors for opinions, but Ethan's voice came out anyway, low. Steady, not challenging, just human. They're not giving you a hard time, Ethan said. They're having a hard time. Michael's eyes flashed. Excuse me? Ethan felt his heart hammer. He could lose his job. He needed that job. Noah needed groceries, rent, medicine for his asthma, yet Ethan couldn't pull the words back. Kids don't know how to say, I'm scared you'll disappear too, so they push, they test. They make it ugly because they're hoping someone stays anyway. Ava stared at him. Mia stared too, like they were trying to decide if he was real. Michael's expression shifted anger, surprise, then something darker, pain. You don't know anything about my family. Ethan nodded once. You're right. I don't. He hesitated, then added, but I know what it looks like when a child stops believing adults mean what they say. Michael's jaw tightened again, but this time it wasn't rage. It was like he was holding something in. Ethan looked at the twins, then at the scattered items on the floor, broken toy pieces, a knocked-over chair, a crumpled drawing with angry red scribbles. He lowered his mop, slowly, and crouched down not too close. Not invading their space, just enough to be on their level. My name's Ethan, he said gently. I'm here to clean up. That's all. Ava narrowed her eyes. We don't want cleaning. We want people to stop pretending. Mia's cheeks were wet now, tears slipping down silently. We want our mom. The words hung in the air like a wound. Michael flinched. He turned toward the windows, shoulders stiff, as if he couldn't breathe in his own penthouse. Ethan didn't answer quickly. He let the truth be heavy for a second, because kids could feel when you lied. Then he said, I can't bring your mom back. His voice softened, but I can sit here for a minute while you breathe. Ava's eyes flicked to Michael, then back to Ethan. You'll leave too. Ethan's chest ached. He thought of Noah's face when Ethan worked double shifts. Thought of all the times he promised he'd be home and was late. He nodded slowly. Eventually, yeah. I have to go home to my kid. He paused, then said, but I won't vanish in the middle of your sentence. If you're talking, I'll wait until you're done. Mia blinked at that. That's a weird promise. Ethan gave a small, tired smile. It's one I can keep. For the first time, Ava's grip on her sister loosened just a little. Not trust nothing that easy, but curiosity. A crack in the wall, Michael watched from the window, silent, his reflection faint against the rainy glass. His hands were trembling slightly, though he tried to hide it by shoving them into his pockets. Ethan turned back to his mop and began picking up the broken pieces slowly, quietly, like he wasn't afraid of their anger. Like mess didn't scare him, and behind him, the twins stopped screaming. They just watched, not because they were suddenly better, but because for the first time in a long time, someone stayed long enough to see them. If you were standing there in that moment, two hurting kids, a father drowning in his own silence, what would you have done? Be honest and tell me in the comments. And if you believe even small patience can be a kind of kindness, tap like because the world needs more people who don't walk away. Ethan kept cleaning, but his mind was already racing. He wasn't a therapist. He wasn't a nanny. He was just a man with sore hands and a son waiting at home. Still, as he glanced at Ava and Mia, he felt something he hadn't felt in a while. Purpose. And he had no idea that this accidental moment, this wrong elevator door, was about to change every life in that penthouse, including his own. Michael Sterling stayed facing the window as if the city could solve what money couldn't. The penthouse was quiet now, too quiet after the screams. Ethan gathered the broken toy pieces into a neat pile, Then his eyes caught a crumpled drawing on the floor. Four stick figures. Two small, one tall, and one scribbled out so violently the paper tore. Ava saw it and snatched it away like a shield. Don't look. Ethan lifted both hands and leaned back. Okay, I won't. Mia studied him from his worn shoes to his damp sleeves. Are you really a janitor? Yeah, Ethan said. Ava's voice turned sharp, like she needed anger to feel safe. So you're here because Daddy pays you? Michael flinched at the word daddy. His shoulders stiffened, but he didn't turn. Ethan kept his voice gentle. I'm here because it's my job. But sitting for a minute. He nodded toward them. That part's not on my paycheck. Ava's eyes narrowed. Then why do it? Ethan hesitated, then chose truth over polish. Because I know what it feels like when adults keep leaving, and you start thinking it's your fault. Mia's lips parted. Is it your fault? No, Ethan said softly. But when you're little, your brain grabs the closest reason. It tries to make sense of pain. Ava pressed the torn drawing to her chest. Mom left because Daddy didn't love her. Michael finally turned. Ava, she did, Ava shouted, voice cracking. And now everyone leaves because we're broken. Mia squeezed her eyes shut. Please stop, please. Michael stepped forward, then stopped, caught between wanting to hold them and fearing he'd make it worse. His voice came out strained. You think I'm not tired too? Ethan rose slowly, careful not to crowd them. They're not trying to ruin your life, he said to Michael, then looked back at the girls. They're trying to survive what happened. Michael's eyes sharpened. You don't know my family. You're right, Ethan admitted. I don't know your world, but I know what it looks like when a child stops believing adults mean what they say. Ava's stare hardened. We don't test people. Mia whispered, we just don't believe them. Ethan nodded. That's testing. Just in a different shape. Michael looked like someone had said the quiet part out loud. Do you have kids? One, Ethan said. Noah, 7. Mia asked, hesitant, does he have a mom? Ava shot her a warning look, but Ethan didn't flinch. She's not around, he said. Hasn't been for a while. Michael's face softened in a way that surprised even him. So, you think you understand? I think I recognize some of it, Ethan said. The part where a house can be big and still feel empty. Ava swallowed. Her voice came out like a challenge. Will you come back tomorrow? Ethan's stomach tightened. He needed his job. He needed to get home. But he saw Mia's hopeful eyes and Ava's fear disguised as toughness. He didn't promise what he couldn't control. If I finish my shift early, I can stop by the hallway again. If I say I'm coming, I'll come. Ava's jaw trembled. And if you don't finish early, then I won't, Ethan said plainly. But I won't disappear in the middle of your sentence. Mia let out a shaky breath. That sounds safer. Michael stared at Ethan. Why would you do this? Ethan's voice lowered. Because someone did it for me once. Who? Ava asked. My dad, Ethan said. Not perfect. But when I was scared, he sat outside my door until I fell asleep. Didn't fix anything. Just stayed. Mia's eyes shone. Did it help? More than he knew, Ethan said. Ava didn't hand over the drawing, but she loosened her grip. Her voice dropped, raw. We hate her, Mia whispered, but we miss her. Michael's eyes closed. He looked like a man losing a fight he never trained for. Ethan didn't rush them. You can hate and miss someone at the same time, he said. That's love with a wound in it. Ava's tough mask cracked. Mia cried openly. Michael's arms hovered, uncertain. Ethan broke the moment gently. I should finish my work, he said, but do you want the hallway light left on tonight? Mia nodded fast. Yes, please. Michael started. We have. This one would be on purpose. Ethan said quietly. Michael fell silent. Ethan backed toward the doorway. Good night, Ava. Good night, Mia. Ava's voice was small. Don't vanish. Ethan paused. I won't, he promised. Not mid-sentence. He stepped into the hall and pulled the door mostly closed. Behind it, he heard Ava whisper to Mia, like the words were fragile. Maybe he's different. Ethan leaned his forehead against the cool wall for a heartbeat. Because he knew the truth. The first time you stay, you're asked to stay again, and tomorrow, when he returned, it wouldn't just be a messy penthouse waiting dot. It would be a family unraveling quietly, one hidden truth at a time. The next evening, Ethan's hands smelled like bleach and metal elevator buttons. Mopey water, the quiet work nobody thanked him for. He checked the clock twice while he wiped down the service corridor. Pretending it didn't matter, it mattered, he finished early by skipping his usual break. Then rode the freight elevator up with his heart beating like he was doing something wrong. When the doors opened, the penthouse hallway was dim, except for one light outside, Michael Sterling's door. On purpose, Ethan felt a strange warmth at that. A small sign that last night hadn't been a dream. He didn't knock. He remembered the rule. Instead, he stood near the wall and cleared his throat softly, just loud enough to be heard without feeling like an invasion. After a few seconds, the door cracked open. Ava's face appeared first, suspicious and watchful like a tiny guard. You came, she said, as if she hated herself for noticing. Ethan gave a small nod. I said I would. Ava didn't smile. But she didn't shut the door either. Mia peeked from behind her sister, clutching a stuffed rabbit with one ear missing. Her eyes widened when she saw him, like hope had surprised her again. The light stayed on. I told you, Ethan said. On purpose. Ava's voice was sharp, but softer than yesterday. Daddy's inside. Ethan stepped in slowly. The penthouse looked the same, expensive, perfect, cold, but something in the air felt different. Less like a showroom. More like a place where people had cried. Michael was in the living room, sitting on the edge of the couch with his elbows on his knees. He looked like he hadn't slept. His tie was gone, shirt collar open, hair slightly messy, small proof that the billionaire mask was slipping. You're back, Michael said, not quite a question. Ethan stayed near the door. I finished early. Michael's eyes moved to the twins. They asked about you? Ava snapped. We did not. Mia whispered, a little. Ethan's mouth lifted at the corner. I'm honored. Michael stood and walked toward the kitchen, then stopped like he couldn't decide where to put his hands. I don't know what you think you're doing, he said, voice tight. That last night was the first time in weeks they fell asleep before midnight. Ethan nodded once. Sometimes kids sleep when their nervous system feels safe. Michael let out a quiet breath, the kind people release when they've been holding it for too long. I've tried everything. Ethan didn't argue. He just looked at Ava and Mia. Do you want to do something simple tonight? Ava crossed her arms. Like what? Reading? Mia's eyes flicked to the bookshelf and then away, like it hurt. Mom used to read. The room tightened around that sentence. Michael's jaw clenched, but he didn't speak. Ethan took a breath. Okay, he said softly. Then not reading. Something else. Ava studied him. Like cleaning? Ethan chuckled quietly. We can do something even better than cleaning. Mia leaned forward, curiosity winning. What? Ethan looked around and spotted a stack of plain paper near the office area, expensive stationery, untouched. He walked over and took a few sheets, then returned and sat on the floor, keeping a respectful distance. Tonight, he said, we make a map. Ava frowned. A map of what? A map of this place, Ethan said. Not the fancy rooms. The safe places. Mia's brows lifted. Safe places? Ethan nodded. Every home has corners that feel better than others. A couch spot, a hallway, a chair, even a closet. He glanced at them carefully. We mark the places that feel okay, and we give them names. Ava looked skeptical. That's stupid. But she edged closer anyway. Ethan slid a pencil toward her. Then prove it's stupid, he said gently. Show me your map. Ava hesitated, then sat down hard, like she was angry at herself for sitting. She grabbed the pencil and began sketching sharp-lined walls, doorways, big shapes. Mia sat next to Ethan and drew slower, softer. This is the window, she murmured. It's scary at night. Ethan nodded. So we don't call it the window. We call it something else. Something that makes it less scary. Mia thought. The moon frame. Ethan smiled. Perfect. Ava drew the long hallway. This is where people leave. Ethan paused. That one was honest. What if we rename it? Ava's pencil hovered. The staying hall, Mia whispered, because the light stayed. Ava didn't deny it. Michael stood a few feet away, watching them sit on the floor like a regular family. His eyes shimmered with something he didn't allow himself to feel often. Ethan kept the activity moving and small. Waves named this circle that add a safe spot sticker made from torn paper. Tiny choices. Tiny control returned to kids who had lost all control. Then Ava's pencil snapped. The sharp sound made her freeze. Her breathing changed instantly fast, shallow. Her fingers clenched as if the broken pencil had betrayed her. Mia reached for her hand. It's okay. Ava yanked away, panic rising. It's not okay. Nothing stays okay. Michael flinched like he'd been hit. Ava stood abruptly, knocking papers aside. Don't say my name like that. Her eyes burned. You say it like I'm a problem you're tired of. Ethan stayed seated. He didn't rush. He didn't stand over her. Ava, he said softly, you can be mad, but you're still safe. Ava's lips trembled. You're going to leave. Ethan swallowed. There it was again, the center of it all. Yes, he said carefully. I will go home. But I'm here right now. That's what everyone says, Ava spat, voice cracking. And then they're gone. And Daddy pretends he doesn't care. And Mia cries. And she stopped, like the rest was too ugly to admit. Mia's voice broke. And you get scary. Ava turned on her sister. Stop, Michael stepped forward. Ava, please, Ava's eyes flashed. You didn't stop her from leaving? The room went still. Michael's face strained. He looked like he'd been holding that guilt in his teeth for months. Ethan felt the air shift. This wasn't just a tantrum. This was the real wound opening. He rose slowly, not toward Ava, but to stand between her and the scattered papers. Giving her space while protecting the moment from collapsing into chaos, he spoke softly but firmly. Ava, he said, when people leave, it feels like a door slamming. Your brain decides slamming is the only language adults understand. Ava's chest heaved. Tears blurred her angry stare. Ethan continued, voice steady as a handrail. But you don't have to slam doors to be heard here. You can say it. Ava's mouth opened, and for a second, she looked like a little girl instead of a shield. I'm scared, she whispered. Mia sobbed quietly, nodding. Me too. Michael's shoulders shook once like he'd been punched from the inside. He sank back onto the couch, one hand covering his mouth. Ethan didn't fill the silence with fake comfort. He let it breathe. Then he said, now it's your turn. Tell me one small act of kindness you've done lately, something simple, like holding a door, checking on a friend, even smiling at someone who looked tired. Drop it in the comments so someone else remembers humanity still lives. Your one small story might light up a dark night for somebody scrolling right now. Ava stared at Ethan like she couldn't understand how he wasn't running away from her fear. Ethan crouched again, lowering himself back to their level. "We can fix the pencil," he said calmly, holding up the broken pieces. "Or we can get a new one. Either way, we don't throw the whole map away." Mia sniffed. "Can we tape it?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah, tape is basically hope." Ava let out a wet, shaky laugh, just one breath of it, but it was the first time she'd laughed in days. Michael looked up, eyes red. "Who are you?" he whispered, not in suspicion now, almost in disbelief. Ethan's voice softened. "Just a dad who's made mistakes," he said, "and learned that sometimes you don't fix a kid by fixing the kid. You fix the room around their fear." Michael stared at the twins, then at Ethan, like he was seeing a path he'd been too busy to notice. And that's when Ethan spotted something on the kitchen counter, half hidden under a folder of paperwork, a printed document. A legal letterhead dot at the top, in bold, were the words, "Petition for emergency custody Imodifice Ion." Ethan's stomach dropped. His eyes flicked to Michael. Michael's gaze followed, and his face hardened instantly. Like a door slamming shut. He snatched the paper off the counter. "You shouldn't be looking at that." Ethan stepped back. "I wasn't." Michael's voice went cold. "This is exactly why staff don't belong in family matters." Ava looked between them, alarm rising again. "What is it?" Michael forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Nothing. Go to your room." Mia clutched her rabbit tighter. "Daddy." Ethan felt the fragile piece cracking, because whatever that paper was, it wasn't nothing and the way. Michael's hands trembled as he hid it, told Ethan the truth was already on its way into the room. Just like the dark after sunset. Just like the knocking after 9. Just like the kind of pain that never asks permission before it returns. Michael's smile stayed on his face like a mask that hurt to wear. "Room, now," he repeated, sharper. Ava froze, eyes locked on the paper he'd hidden behind his back. Mia's fingers tightened around her rabbit's torn ear. The calm Ethan had built tape and pencils and renamed hallways started to wobble. Ethan kept his voice low. "They noticed," he said gently. "If it's nothing, it won't feel like a secret." Michael's jaw flexed. "You're overstepping." Maybe he was. Ethan felt it. The invisible line between staff and family, between thank you and get out. He took a small step back to give Michael space, but he didn't leave. Ava's voice came out thin. "Is someone taking us?" Michael turned too fast. "No," Mia whispered. "Then why are you hiding it?" Michael's eyes flashed, then softened, then hardened again. "Because you don't need more things to worry about." Ava's chin lifted, defiant. "We already worry." Ethan watched Michael's hands. They weren't just tense. They were shaking. That's when Ethan understood. Michael wasn't angry at Ethan for seeing the paper. He was terrified the twins would read it. Ethan chose his words carefully. "Mr. Sterling," he said, "I'm not asking to read it. I'm asking you not to scare them with silence." Michael stared at him for a long moment. Then his shoulders sagged like the fight drained out all at once. He looked toward the hallway, toward the closed door the nanny had fled through yesterday, toward years of people quitting. "It's their mother," Michael said finally, voice rough. "She filed something." Ava's face went white. Mia's breath caught. Ethan's chest tightened. "Custody," he guessed softly, not as a question because there were only so many things a letter like that could be. Michael nodded once, shame in his eyes. "She wants them." Ava's lips parted. "She wants us now?" Mia's eyes filled. "After she left?" Michael swallowed, throat moving painfully. "She says she's ready. She says she..." He stopped, like repeating the reasons would make them real. Ava shook her head hard. No. Mia sank to the floor, hugging the rabbit, rocking slightly. Is she coming here? Michael's voice broke. I don't know. Ethan felt the room tilt. This wasn't just a legal problem. This was the twins' worst fear proof that people could vanish, then reappear and demand love on schedule. Ava's anger erupted like a match to gasoline. Tell her we hate her. She screamed. Tell her we don't want her. Michael flinched. Ava, I don't care. Ava's hands balled into fists. She doesn't get to choose us again like we're toys. Mia cried quietly. I miss her, but I'm scared. Ethan crouched near Mia, not touching her, just anchoring the space. Both can be true, he said softly. Missing someone and being scared of them. Ava's eyes burned as she looked at Ethan. You said people can stay. You lied. Ethan's throat tightened. I didn't lie, he said. I'm here. I'm still here. But you'll go home, Ava snapped. And then we'll be alone when she comes. Michael's voice turned sharp, defensive. You won't be alone. You have security. Staff, Ava laughed, ugly and broken. Staff leaves. The words hit Michael like a slap. He stared at his daughters, stunned, like he'd been building a fortress out of money and realizing it had no roof. Ethan stood slowly. They don't need more staff, he said quietly. They need one safe routine they can trust. Michael's eyes lifted. And what you're volunteering? Ethan thought of Noah waiting at home, thought of bills, thought of how easy it was to care until it cost you something. Then he looked at Mia's shaking shoulders and Ava's terror disguised as rage. I can't live here, Ethan said carefully. But I can do one thing. He turned to the twins. Tomorrow, he said, I'll bring something from my home. Something real. And we'll add it to your map. A proof object. Ava's brows knit. What kind of object? Ethan's voice softened. A bedtime story. Mia looked up through tears. You said we wouldn't raid. We won't raid hers, Ethan said gently. We'll make ours. Michael stared, confused. You write stories? Ethan almost smiled. No, but my son and we tell them. When the world feels too loud. Ava swallowed. Her anger flickered, replaced by something small and aching. And you'll come? Ethan nodded. If I say I'm coming, I'll come. Michael looked like he wanted to believe, but fear kept pulling him back. You don't know what you're getting into, he murmured. Ethan met his eyes. I know, he said. That's why it matters. Ava wiped her face with her sleeve, trying to pull her armor back on. Fine, she muttered. But if you don't show up? Ethan's voice was quiet, steady. Then you get to be furious. And I'll deserve it. For the first time, Ava didn't scream. She just nodded, tight and trembling. Mia whispered, Can the light stay on again? Ethan glanced at Michael. Michael's throat worked. Then, almost reluctantly, he nodded. Yes, he said. On purpose. Ethan felt a strange sting behind his eyes at that, because it wasn't a light anymore. It was a choice. And choices were what this family had lost. Ethan moved toward the door to leave, because if he stayed longer, this would stop being a favor and become something else. Something dangerous. Something that could break. But as he stepped into the hallway, he heard Ava's voice behind him, low and scared. What if she comes back and takes us, and you're not here? Ethan paused, hand on the doorframe. He didn't turn around right away because the honest answer was cruel. He couldn't be there. For everything. He could only be there for the moments he promised, and tomorrow. He would walk back into this penthouse carrying a story meant for his own son, not knowing that the twins' mother was already in the city, and that the next knock wouldn't be on the wall. It would be on the front door. The next afternoon. Ethan's old sedan rattled as he pulled into the underground garage beneath the Sterling Tower. He checked the time on the dashboard twice, then once more on his phone, like he could force the minutes to behave. In the passenger seat sat a small canvas tote, bag faded blue, the kind you get free at a school event. Inside were three things: a roll of clear tape, a cheap spiral notebook, and a worn children's book with the corners curled from being opened. Too many times. Noah's favorite Noah had hugged that book this morning before school and asked, "Why are you taking it, Dad?" Ethan had swallowed the lump in his throat and said, "Just for one night. I'll bring it back." Noah had stared up at him, serious beyond 7 years old. To someone who needs it? Ethan hadn't trusted his voice, so he just nodded. A Noah sweet, stubborn Noah had pressed the book into his hands anyway. "Tell them it's a brave book," he whispered. "It helps when you're scared." Now Ethan carried that courage in a tote bag as he rode the service elevator up. The doors opened on the penthouse floor with a soft chime that felt too polite for how heavy his chest was. The hallway light was already on. On purpose, Ethan approached the Sterling door and didn't knock. Instead, he made the same small sound with his throat, a gentle announcement. Within seconds, the door opened. Mia stood there first this time, rabbit in her arms, cheeks freshly washed as if she'd been crying earlier. "You came," she said, and it didn't sound like a test. It sounded like relief. Ethan nodded. "I said I would." Ava appeared behind her, arms folded. She tried to look unimpressed, but her eyes flicked quickly to Ethan's tote bag. "What's that?" Ethan lifted it slightly. "Proof object," he said. "Like I promised." Mia's eyes widened. "You brought it." Ethan stepped inside. The penthouse was brighter today, curtains pulled back, sunlight spilling across the marble. But even with light, the air still carried that quiet tension like a string pulled too tight. Michael Sterling stood near the kitchen island with a phone in his hand. He ended a call as Ethan entered, his expression guarded. "She's coming tonight," he said without preamble. Ethan froze. "Tonight?" Michael nodded once. 7 p.m. She wants to talk to the girls. His jaw tightened. Her liar calls it reconnecting. Ava stiffened immediately. "No." Mia's face paled. "Is she really coming?" Michael's voice softened, but only a little. "Yes." Ava's eyes flashed with anger, but beneath it, Ethan saw the same fear as yesterday raw. Child-sized, too big for her body. "She doesn't get to," Ava said. "She doesn't get to come back like she forgot us in a drawer." Michael opened his mouth, but no words came out. He looked at Ethan as if expecting him to have an answer, like Ethan had become some kind of quiet translator for pain. Ethan set the tote bag on the coffee table and pulled out the spiral notebook. "Before 7, he said gently, "we do our thing." Ava scoffed. "A map?" "Not today," Ethan said. "Today we make a story that belongs to you." Mia sat down slowly on the rug, hugging her rabbit. Ava hovered, pretending she might walk away, but she stayed close enough to listen. Ethan opened the notebook to a blank page. "We're going to make a character," he said. "Someone who feels what you feel but can say it out loud." Mia whispered, "Like a pretend person?" Ethan nodded. "A brave pretend person." Ava's voice turned skeptical. "That's childish." Ethan met her eyes. "Good," he said. "Because you're a child, Ava. You shouldn't have to be a grown-up warrior all the time." Ava looked like she hated how true that felt. Ethan tapped the page with his pencil. "Our character's name," he said, "is..." "What?" Mia blinked. "Lily." Ava rolled her eyes. "That's boring." Ethan smiled. "Okay, Lily's boring. What would you name her?" Ava hesitated, then muttered, "Sky." Mia frowned. "Sky Lily?" Ethan chuckled. "Sky Lily, fine. She could have 2 names. She's complicated." Ava's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Almost. Ethan continued, drawing small boxes like a movie storyboard. Sky Lily lives in a big house, he said, and people think that means she has everything. Mia whispered, but she doesn't. Ethan nodded. Right, she doesn't have the one thing she wants. Ava's pencil snapped up. Her mom. The word hit the room. Michael's hand tightened around his phone. Ethan didn't flinch. He wrote it down. Her mom laughed, he said softly, and now Sky Lily doesn't trust anyone. Mia added, she gets scared at night. Ava said, harsh. She gets angry first. Ethan looked at Ava. Because anger feels stronger than fear, he murmured. Ava's eyes watered. She blinked hard, refusing to let the tears win. Ethan drew a door on the page. Now, he said, here's the important part. Someone shows up. Not a hero with magic, just a steady person. Mia looked at Ethan's tote bag. A janitor dad. Ethan smiled carefully. Maybe. Michael let out a small sound, half laugh, half broken breath. Ethan turned the page. Sky Lily has a choice, he said. She can slam the door, or she can say one true sentence. Ava's voice cracked. What sentence? Ethan waited, giving her space to find it herself. Ava swallowed. Her shoulders rose and fell with a shaky breath. Then, in a voice barely louder than the rain in the distance, she said, I'm scared you'll leave again. Mia's tears spilled. Me too, she whispered. Michael's eyes reddened, and he looked away quickly, as if crying would be a failure. Ethan wrote the sentence down carefully, like it was sacred. Then he looked at the twins. That's the line, he said. That's the truth line. If you can say that tonight, even once, you'll be braver than most adults. Ava's hands trembled. What if she doesn't care? Ethan's chest tightened. He didn't lie. Then that will hurt, he said honestly. But her not caring won't change what you deserve. Mia asked, small, what do we deserve? Ethan answered without hesitation. You deserve someone who doesn't treat love like a visiting hour. Ava stared at the notebook. The tough mask flickered again, fighting to stay up. And what if she tries to take us? Michael's voice cut in, sharp with fear. She won't. Ethan raised a hand gently, not to silence him, but to slow the panic. That's a real fear, he said. So we give Sky Lily a plan? Mia sniffed. A plan? Ethan nodded. A plan that doesn't hurt anyone? A plan that keeps her safe? He wrote 3 words in large letters. Breathe, speak, hold. Breathe, Ethan said. When your body wants to run. Speak, he continued. One true sentence. And hold, he finished. Onto something real. He opened the tote bag and pulled out Noah's worn book. He placed it in Mia's hands, gently. Mia touched the curled cover like it was fragile. This is your son's? Ethan nodded. He told me to tell you it's a brave book. Ava's eyes softened despite herself. He let you bring it? Ethan swallowed. He wanted you to have it tonight. Mia hugged the book against her chest, rabbit pressed beside it. I'll hold it, she whispered, so I don't shake. Ava's voice was quieter now. Is your son like us? Ethan's throat tightened. He's scared sometimes, he admitted, but he still tries to be kind. Ava looked down, embarrassed by her own feelings. That's stupid. Ethan smiled gently. Kindness often looks stupid to people who've been hurt. Michael stared at the twins with something like awe, like he was seeing them, not as problems, but as children fighting a storm inside. Then the clock on the wall ticked loud in the silence, and all of them remembered the time. 7 p.m. was coming, and somewhere in the city, a woman who had once been Mom was on her way back carrying her own story, her own reasons, her own excuses. Ethan closed the notebook slowly. When she arrives, he said softly, Sky Lily's job isn't to be perfect. Her job is to be honest. Ava's jaw tightened, and if I can't, Ethan met her eyes. Then I'll still be in the hallway light, he promised. On purpose. Mia clutched Noah's book tighter. Will you stay until she leaves? Ethan's stomach nodded. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to be a wall between them and pain, but promises had to be real. I'll stay as long as I can, he said carefully. And if I have to go, I won't vanish mid-sentence. Ava nodded, swallowing hard, like she was storing that promise in a place deeper than trust. And then, far too soon, there was a sound from the entryway, not a knock from the wall, a knock from the front door, 3 soft taps, like someone asking permission to return to a life they once abandoned. The 3 taps echoed through the penthouse like a warning bell. Ava's whole body locked. Mia's fingers dug into Noah's book so hard her knuckles turned pale. Michael stood still for a second, as if moving toward the door would make the moment real. Ethan didn't speak. He just shifted closer to the hallway, opening close enough to be a steady presence, far enough not to steal the room from the family that had to face this. Michael finally exhaled and walked to the door. When he opened it, a woman stood there holding a small handbag with both hands, as if she needed something to anchor her. She was beautiful and attired. Human way hair pulled back neatly, makeup done carefully, eyes shining with nerves she couldn't hide. Grace Sterling, the twins' mother. Her gaze flew past Michael instantly, searching, hungry. Ava, Mia. Mia made a sound that wasn't a word. Ava didn't move at all. Her face turned into stone. Grace took one cautious step in. Hi, babies, she said, voice soft like she was approaching a skittish animal. I've missed you. Ava's lips curled. Don't call us that. Grace flinched as if slapped. Okay, she whispered. I'm sorry. Michael's voice was controlled, but the anger lived beneath it. You said 7? You're on time. Grace's eyes flicked to him. I didn't want to give them another reason to think I wouldn't show. Ethan felt Ava's shoulders twitch at that, like the word show hit a nerve. Show up, like it was optional. Like it was a favor. Grace looked around the room, noticing Ethan for the first time. Her brows knit. Who is he? Michael's jaw tightened. Staff. Ethan's chest tightened too, but he didn't correct it. Not now. Grace's gaze returned to the twins. She lowered herself to a crouch, keeping distance, palms open. I know you're angry, she said. You should be. Ava's voice came out sharp. You don't get to decide what we should be. Grace swallowed. You're right. Mia's eyes brimmed with tears. Why did you go? The question landed like a weight. The room waited for Grace's answer, as if the whole penthouse was holding its breath. Grace's mouth trembled. Because I was drowning, she said. And I thought, if I stayed, I would become someone who hurt you. Ava laughed, bitter and small. So you left and hurt us anyway. Grace's eyes filled. Yes, she whispered. I did. Michael's voice cut in cold. And now you want custody. Grace flinched. I want time, she said quickly. I want to rebuild. I'm not here to rip them away tonight. Ava's eyes flashed. But you tried. Grace's face crumpled. She looked like she wanted to reach out, but didn't dare. My lawyer filed papers, she admitted, because I didn't know how else to be heard. Michael, you wouldn't answer my calls for months. Michael's laugh was hollow. You left. Then you wanted access like you were ordering delivery. Grace's shoulders shook. I'm not proud of any of it. Mia hugged Noah's book tighter. Her voice was tiny. Did you miss us at night? Grace turned to her immediately, desperate. Yes, every night. Her eyes dropped to the book in Mia's arms. Is that yours? Mia whispered, It's a brave book. Grace blinked, confused. A brave, Ethan felt the moment. The whole part of the plan. He spoke softly, not to take over, just to place a stepping stone. It belongs to my son, he said. He loaned it for tonight. Grace's eyes snapped to Ethan, surprise warming her face for a second. Then she nodded slowly, like she understood something important without being told. Ava's voice trembled with rage that was really fear. You're going to leave again. Grace's breath caught. No. Ava took one step forward, eyes burning. You always say that? You said you'd be at my school play. You said you'd come back after your trip. You said. Grace's face broke open. I know, she whispered. I know, sweetheart. Don't call me sweetheart, Ava shouted. Her voice cracked on the last word, and suddenly she looked small again. Too small for the pain she carried. Ethan watched Michael's hands clench and unclench, like he was forcing himself not to explode. But he also watched something else, Michael's eyes flicking to his daughter's, softening, remembering that this wasn't a courtroom. It was two children bleeding out in front of their parents. Ava's breathing sped up. Her hands shook. Ethan recognized the edge of panic, the moment where a child's body goes into fight or flight and words turn into weapons. He didn't move toward her. He didn't touch her. He just spoke the plan quietly, like a whisper only the girls could hear. Breathe, Ethan said. Slow, 1, 2. Ava's chest heaved, but she heard him. Speak, Ethan continued, eyes gentle. One true sentence. Ava's lips trembled. She looked at her mother, then at her father, then at Mia holding the brave book like a lifeline, and then Ava did something nobody in that penthouse expected. She didn't scream. She didn't throw anything. She said it, barely louder than a whisper, but clearer. I'm scared you'll leave again. The sentence fell into the room like a candle lighting in darkness. Grace's face crumpled. Tears spilled, not pretty, not controlled. Oh, Ava. She sobbed. I'm so sorry. Michael's eyes reddened. He looked away, swallowing hard. Mia whispered, shaking, Me too. Grace put a hand over her own heart, as if holding herself together. I can't undo what I did, she said, voice broken. But I can stop pretending it didn't destroy you. I can try to be safe again. Ava wiped her tears violently with her sleeve. Trying isn't enough. Grace nodded, desperate. You're right, she said. So tell me what you need. Ava hesitated because needs were dangerous. Needs got ignored. Needs got used against you. Ethan felt that tension and gently bridged it. If you could ask for one thing tonight, he said quietly to Ava, what would it be? Ava stared at her mother, then whispered, Don't make promises you can't keep. Grace nodded quickly. Okay, she said. No more big promises. She took a shaky breath. Only small ones I can prove. Mia's voice wobbled, like the hallway light. Grace blinked, then looked at Michael, confused. Michael's jaw clenched, then loosened. We left it on, he admitted. On purpose. Grace's eyes filled again. She swallowed. That's good. Ethan watched something shift. Not healed. Not fixed. But a crack in the wall where light could enter. Then Grace reached into her handbag, slowly, and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Her hands were trembling. I brought something, she said. Not legal. Not paperwork. She looked at the twins. A letter. For you. You don't have to read it now. Ava's eyes narrowed. Is it another excuse? Grace flinched. No, she whispered. It's the truth I was too cowardly to say before. Michael's voice turned wary. Grace looked at him, tears on her cheeks. Let them have it, she pleaded. Let them at least know I didn't leave because of them. Ava swallowed. Mia stared at the letter like it might bite. Ethan could feel the room leaning toward a cliff, because if that letter held truth, it could heal or it could tear the wound wider. And somewhere deep inside Ethan, a new fear started to rise, quiet but sharp. What if the reason Grace left wasn't just sadness? What if it was something Michael had never told the girls? Something that would change the way they saw their father forever. Grace's fingers hovered over the letter as if it weighed more than paper. She didn't hand it to the twins right away. Instead, she placed it gently on the coffee table like a fragile thing that could shatter if touched too fast. "You can open it whenever you want," she said, voice trembling. "Or never." Ava's eyes stayed locked on it. "You wrote a letter now?" she said bitterly, "but you couldn't stay." Grace flinched. "I know." Michael shifted, the tension in his shoulders tightening again. "We should keep this short," he said. "They're already overwhelmed." Grace turned to him, and for a moment the softness in her face hardened into something sharper. "No," she said quietly. "Short is what we've done for years. Short answers. Short apologies. Short visits." She swallowed. It never fixed anything. Michael's jaw clenched, but he didn't interrupt. Mia's voice was small. "Mom, are you sick?" The question hit like a sudden drop. Grace froze, eyes widening. Ava snapped, "Mia." But Mia didn't look away. Her gaze stayed on Grace's face like she was searching for clues. "People leave when they're sick," she whispered. "Or when they're dying." Grace's eyes filled. She shook her head quickly. "No, sweetheart. I'm not dying." Ethan watched Mia's shoulders ease a fraction, but Ava's body stayed stiff, like relief wasn't allowed. Grace took a slow breath. "I left because I was scared," she said. "Not of you, of what I was becoming." Michael's laugh came out low and tight. "You mean what I was becoming?" Grace's head snapped toward him. "Michael," she whispered, warning in her voice. Ethan felt the room sharpen. Like a hidden door had creaked open. Ava noticed too. Her eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" Michael took a step back as if the question had shoved him. "It means adult things," he said too quickly. "Things you don't need to carry." Ava's voice rose. "We already carry everything. You keep saying we don't need to know, but we're the ones crying at night." Mia clutched the brave book tighter. "Please don't fight," she begged. Ethan moved his gaze to Grace, silently asking, "Are you going to say it?" Grace's throat worked. She looked at her daughters, really looked at them, like she was finally accepting that protecting them with silence had only made monsters out of shadows. She nodded faintly, as if making a decision. "Mia," Grace said softly, "can I sit closer?" Mia hesitated, then nodded a little. Grace slid forward just a few inches on the rug. Not close enough to touch, but close enough to be real. "When you were little," she began, "your dad was busy, always busy. And I thought that was the price of success." Michael's face tightened. Grace held up a hand. "No, let me finish." Her voice shook, but she pushed through. Then the nights got longer. The calls got harsher. And sometimes he came home with anger still stuck to him. Michael's eyes flashed. "I never," Grace's voice broke. "You didn't hit them," she said quickly, looking at the girls. "Never, not once." She swallowed hard. "But you did break things. You did shout. You did scare me." The word scare landed like thunder. Ava stared at her father. Mia's mouth parted, trembling. Michael's voice went cold, defensive. "So that's your story now? That you were scared of me?" Grace's tears fell again. "Yes," she whispered. "Because I was." Michael shook his head, jaw clenched. "You could have stayed and fought with me. You could have." "I did." Grace cried softly. "For years I did. And then one night," she squeezed her eyes shut as if the memory burned. One night you slammed the office door so hard the frame cracked, and Ava started screaming from her room. Mia wet the bed. And you didn't even hear them because you were on the phone with investors? Michael's face drained. Ethan really watched him and saw the truth behind the billionaire. A man who had been losing himself and didn't realize his children had been watching. Ava's voice came out thin. Dad, is that true? Michael's lips parted, but nothing came out. Mia whispered, shaking, Did you scare Mom? Michael's eyes glistened. He swallowed hard. I was under pressure. Ava snapped. So were we. The sound that came out of Michael wasn't anger. It was pain. I know, he said hoarsely. I know. Grace wiped her face with trembling fingers. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you, she told the girls. I left because I was afraid if I stayed, you would grow up thinking love sounds like shouting. Ava's eyes flooded. Her tough mask cracked, then split. So you left us with the shouting? She whispered. Grace flinched like she'd been stabbed. Yes, she breathed. And that's the thing I will regret until the day I die. Mia curled forward, crying into Noah's book. I don't understand, she sobbed. Why didn't you take us? Grace's face crumpled. Because I thought I couldn't, she whispered. Because he had lawyers. Because I had nothing but fear. And because... She swallowed, voice barely there. Because I thought you were safer with him than with me falling apart. Michael stared at the floor. Shame spreading across his face like ink in water dot. Ethan felt Ava's breathing speeding again, panic rising. This was the big reveal, the kind that shakes the foundation of a child's world. He needed to keep the room from collapsing into screaming. He didn't fix it. He offered a bridge. If that hit you hard, Ethan said gently, voice low, leave a heart in the comments. Sometimes a small symbol says what our mouths can't when a moment like this breaks open. Ava wiped her tears violently. So you both chose yourselves? She whispered. And we were just the leftovers. No, Grace said, voice urgent. Never leftovers. You were the reason I tried so long. Michael lifted his head slowly, eyes wet. And you were the reason I worked so hard, he said. His voice cracked. I told myself I was building you a future. Ava's laugh was bitter. We wanted you, not the future. The sentence shattered something in Michael. His shoulders shook once, then again. He covered his face with one hand like he couldn't bear his own reflection. Grace leaned forward, carefully, and placed her hand on the rug between them, not touching the twins, just offering closeness. I can't rewrite the past, she whispered. But I can stop lying about it. Mia raised her head, eyes red. Does that mean you'll stay now? Grace's breath hitched. It means I want to, she said. And it means I'll prove it in small ways. Michael's voice came out raw. And what about me? He asked, almost like a child. Do I get to prove anything? Ava stared at him, hurt and fury tangled together. Can you? She whispered. Michael swallowed hard. He looked at his daughters the way a man looks at a cliff he has to climb without ropes. Yes, he said. Even if I have to start from nothing. Grace exhaled shakily. Then let this be the first night we stop pretending. Ethan felt the room shift again, still painful but clearer. The monster had a name now. The truth had air around it, but honesty had consequences, because once Grace said she'd been scared, someone would ask the next question, why didn't Michael stop? And what else had happened in this house that the twins had never been told? The kind of question that doesn't just change a night, it changes a life. Michael stared at the floor as if the marble could swallow him. The silence that followed Grace's confession wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence that feels like a room holding its breath before a storm. Ava's eyes didn't leave her father. Her anger had melted into something sharper betrayal. So, she said slowly, voice shaking, you were scary. And Mom laughed. And we were just supposed to survive? Michael's throat worked. Ava, don't, Ava snapped, tears spilling again. Don't say my name like it fixes anything. Mia clutched Noah's book so tightly the cover bent. Dad, she whispered, were you angry because of us? Michael's head jerked up. No, the answer came fast, fierce. Never because of you. Then why? Mia asked. Her voice was small, but it held something powerful clarity. Michael opened his mouth, then closed it again. The truth was sitting on his tongue like glass. Grace watched him, trembling, but she didn't interrupt this time. She looked like she'd already made peace with being the villain, and Ava's eyes, if it meant the girls finally got honesty. Ethan stayed near the hallway, a steady shadow. He didn't speak. Not yet. This was the part only parents could carry. Michael finally exhaled. Because I was failing, he said, voice rough. And I didn't know how to be failing. Ava blinked. You're a billionaire. Michael gave a bitter laugh that sounded nothing like pride. Money isn't the same as winning, he whispered. When your mother left, I told myself I'd prove I was worth staying for. I worked harder. I slept less. I became a machine. Mia's tears fell silently. Machines don't hug. Michael flinched. I know. Ava's fists tightened. So you chose work over us? Michael's eyes filled. I thought work was for you. Ava's voice rose. We didn't ask for that. Grace's voice trembled as she spoke quiet but firm. Michael, you can explain your pain without making them responsible for it. Michael nodded as if the words hit him in the chest. You're right, he whispered. He turned to the twins, his eyes wet, face bare. I was angry at myself, he said. I was angry at the world. And I brought it home. His voice cracked. You didn't deserve that. Ava stared at him like she wanted to believe but didn't know how. So what now? She whispered. Mom wants us. You're you. And we're just stuck. Mia's shoulders shook. I don't want to be ripped apart, she cried. I don't want court. I don't want strangers asking us questions. Grace's face tightened with pain. I don't want that either, she said. That's not why I'm here. Michael looked at her sharply. Then why file? Grace's jaw trembled. Because I panicked, she admitted. Because I thought if I didn't, you'd keep them from me forever. I made a legal move because I didn't know how to make a human one. Ava laughed, broken. So you both panic and we get crushed. The sentence hit Ethan like a memory. Noah's small voice asking why adults make decisions like kids, but expect children to be brave. Ethan stepped forward a half step, careful. Ava, he said softly, you're allowed to be furious. But you're not powerless. Ava's eyes snapped to him. Yes, we are. Ethan shook his head gently. Not tonight, he said. Tonight you can set one boundary. One rule. Mia blinked at him. A rule? Ethan nodded. You made a map. You made a story. Now you make a rule for this conversation. Something that keeps your heart safe. Ava swallowed hard. Her voice came out small. No yelling. Michael froze, shame flickering in his eyes. Okay, he said quickly. No yelling. Grace nodded. Agreed, Mia whispered, and no leaving in the middle. Grace flinched, tears rising again. Okay, she whispered. I won't leave mid-sentence. Michael's face twisted, guilt heavy. Me neither, he said. Even felt the air soften slightly. A boundary had been spoken. A child had taken back a sliver of control. Grace looked at the twins, voice shaking. I want to start with something small, she said. Not custody. Not court. Just consistency. She swallowed. I can come every Tuesday and Thursday at 7. Same time, same place. No surprises. Ava's eyes narrowed. You'll actually come? Grace nodded, tears spilling. Yes, and if I ever can't, I will tell you the day before. Not after. Not never. Mia hugged the book closer. That sounds safer. Michael's jaw tightened. And what do I get? He asked, not as a demand, more like a man terrified he'd be erased. Grace looked at him carefully. You get a chance to change, she said, but not by performing. By becoming steady. Michael's eyes squeezed shut. I don't know how. Ava's voice trembled. Learn. The word was simple. It carried years of hunger inside it. Michael nodded slowly, like he was taking an oath. Okay, he whispered. I'll learn. Grace shifted on the rug. Can we do one more small thing tonight? She asked the twins. Just one. Ava didn't answer. Mia did, quietly. What? Grace reached into her handbag again, slower this time, and pulled out a small photo crease from being held too often. She placed it on the floor between them. It was a picture of the twins as toddlers, sitting on Grace's lap, messy with ice cream. Grace was laughing, real laughter. Michael was in the background, smiling, younger, lighter. I kept this, Grace whispered. Even when I didn't deserve to. Ava stared at it, breath hitching. Mia touched the corner gently, like it might disappear. Grace's voice broke. I want to earn my way back, she said. Not with gifts. Not with excuses. With time, Ava whispered. Time doesn't fix everything. No, Grace agreed. But it gives us a chance to do things differently. Michael stared at the photo, then at his daughters. I want to do things differently too, he said. Starting now. He swallowed hard. Can I read with you tonight? Mia's eyes widened. You don't read. Michael's face tightened with shame. I can try. Ava's lips trembled. She looked at Noah's book in Mia's arms, then at Ethan. It's not even ours, she whispered. Ethan spoke softly. Borrowed doesn't mean it can't help, he said. Sometimes borrowed things keep you alive until you can build your own. Grace nodded quickly. We can read that, she said. If it's okay. Mia looked at Ethan, seeking permission like he was the only stable thing in the room. Ethan nodded. It's brave, he reminded her. It can handle tonight. Mia placed the book carefully in Michael's hands. Michael held it like it was fragile. Like it was a second chance. He cleared his throat. His voice shook as he read the first line, simple words, clumsy rhythm, but real effort. Ava watched him like she was waiting for the old anger to leak out. It didn't. When Michael stumbled over a word, Grace didn't correct him harshly. She just whispered it gently, like a hand guiding, not pushing. Mia leaned closer. Ava didn't, but she stopped shaking. Ethan stood in the hallway light. Watching the scene, two parents and two girls gathered around a book that didn't belong to them, but somehow belonged to the moment. And for the first time, the penthouse didn't feel like a museum. It felt like a home trying awkwardly, painfully to be born again. But Ethan's phone vibrated in his pocket. He glanced down. Message from his neighbor. Noah's having trouble breathing. I'm taking him to urgent care. Call me. Ethan's blood went cold because the one place he was supposed to be steady was suddenly the one place he couldn't be, and the promise he'd made about not vanishing. Mid-sentence was about to be tested in the cruelest way possible.